me to share my screen to go through the slides? Yeah, I'm seeing some yes. Okay, so let's do that.
Sorry about that.
Aha. So the button that I don't have activated is share the screen. Sorry, Sarah.
Okay, let me see.
But what I can do as Sarah is seeing if we can start that is start with, I'll jump ahead a little bit and start with the conversation that, Greg introduced. Once we realized that the vote had passed to no longer have MCAS as a graduation requirement, Mike Naraki and I began conversations with the department chairs that it mainly affects, right? So English, math, and science. And their immediate reaction, which I think is one to be very proud of, is that question, can we still use the MCAS as some sort of measurement for graduation? The absolute benefit for that is that MCAS is not going away. All students will still need to take MCAS, and schools will be measured by MCAS scores. So I think most people are familiar with the fact that like 8th grade scores are not great. Well, 8th grade scores don't mean anything to the kids. They don't mean a lot to the families. We don't know what the investment level is in 8th grade because of that. But schools are still held accountable based on those scores because that's a federal regulation. So the local regulation was whether or not to count it for graduation, but the federal regulation through No Child Left Behind is that every school must have an accountability measure. So when talking with the department chairs, we asked them to go back to their departments and to speak to their departments. So it is possible that not all of the faculty have heard this because we've only talked about it with English, math, and science. All 3 departments wanted to continue to utilize MCAS as a graduation requirement. So we were waiting for final say from DEAS to tell us whether or not that could be a local decision. So we have now found out from DEAS that yes, using MCAS could be a local decision. And what we will be working on in the coming department time and some PD time is what we would like to propose, and we'll propose it first to the education committee, and then second, it'll come to the full board for like a policy vote, what we would like AMSA's graduation requirements to be. The initial thoughts are yes, MCAS, and then when students fall in the category of not meeting or below, they will design some local measures to get kids to that meeting level, just like we've had retests and EPPs, because there will not be retests in the same way that there have been. There will not be retests in the area of science at all. And then for math and English, it will only be for students who actually missed the MCAS so that they could be deemed eligible for the Adams scholarships. So we do have some local work to do to ensure that students have multiple ways to prove their mastery, MCAS being one, and then what happens if I'm not there yet. And we'll be working on that and then coming to education, presenting it there, and then having education present it to the final board. So we can start there. Share button is still not quite there yet. So let me go. That was the MCAS update. I wanted to read something that we did get from the commissioner regarding our integrated monitoring review of special education and civil rights. And again, this is something to get really excited about and be really proud of the work that our AMSA staff and leadership team have done. They write to us, we're pleased to tell you that the department has found your charter school to be in compliance with all Group B universal standards monitored during the PSM review, and no corrective action is required at this time. So they came in, they took a look at our special education services and programs, and also how we address civil rights. And they said we're doing a great job at that. Real special thanks to Lynn Jarvis and Anthony Montesian, because they did the yeoman's work on this. They did a wonderful job working with Michael McDonald from Dease. And there were some things that we had to fix before the final report came out. Thanks to the staff for fixing the major one, which was reviewing all of our curriculum using the Washington model to just check it for bias. They did a wonderful job with that. And so therefore, we can move forward with no corrective action plan with regards to civil rights and special education. So that's fabulous. I think maybe the other slides are a little lost without sharing, but we've also had some great accomplishments by students lately, and I think we should celebrate them. I am not the best with names, but I'm going to try here. Mario Jekka Kumar. He has been selected by Acting Commissioner Russell Johnson and Dease to represent the state as one of the U.S. Presidential Scholar nominees from Massachusetts. And so we'll see how he does in that. So congratulations to him. Recently in the Metro West paper, Caitlin Massey was named to one of the 25 most interesting people out there for her work with the community fridge and some other stuff she's done in the community. We have two students who, for the first time since 2001, have qualified for the next level of the American International Mathematics exam. So again, Luba and her department are really psyched about that. And I don't have it on here officially, but I'll be talking about how well we did on the mammal next time. Our high school, upper school math students are really, really excelling and doing very well in some very competitive situations. A little pat on the back for the 19 students Sarah and I took to the DECA Districts Conference today. Out of the 19 students, we have qualified 4 projects. I think seven kids are moving on to the state competition. 1 placed first, and then we had a 2nd place team and a 3rd place team, and then a 4th place competitor. So AMSA is really, really starting to shine in these competitive events this year, and it really feels good. And I think to the staff, it probably feels like things are kind of coming back and coming together. So congratulations.
Lisa, you should be able to share now.
Oh, good. Okay. Because we're going to get into a little bit of data screen. Okay. This one, and here we go. Good. All right. So the next congratulations is, I feel it's really important that our educators are also given opportunities to shine and demonstrate how talented that they are. And it was in my newsletter, but just kudos again to Ms. Murphy. She's the academic department chair for history and social sciences. And, she demonstrated excellence in her field by presenting and representing AMSA at the National Council for Social Studies annual conference. So we're really proud of her for that. And lastly, for congratulations, again, I want to thank our new Dean of Students, Mr. Fortier, and his collaboration with Dean of Students Montesian for coming up with the Core Values Awards. They've been doing this since the beginning of the year. Each month, a group of students are awarded certificates for really demonstrating AMSA's core values. We're really trying to highlight and spotlight when our kids do well. So these guys were, I believe, the November core value superstars, and tomorrow I get the pleasure of photographing December. So they will be coming up soon. Where are we? Okay, so lastly, I would like to give you just a quick preview of some of the data that I am compiling in this data dashboard that I'm really building for the board so that the board can kind of dig into academics, behavior, attendance, and test scores, things like that, to help drive our strategic initiatives moving forward. So this is, like I said, this is a real static preview that I'm going to give you tonight. And I do have homework for you, so I'll talk about that a little bit later. But this is our monthly attendance. Our attendance rates are very good. I can't explain that dip in October for a grade 12, but we're watching those things. Recently, we sent a survey out to staff about the day before Thanksgiving and whether or not we should have that half day or we should just give that as a full day, because our attendance really dips on that day. Staff were split. It came back 50-50. So we don't plan to make changes for next year, but it's a data point we plan on keeping our eyes on. You'll see on the dashboard enrollment by race and ethnicity. And hopefully over time, we can see the demographics change and be more representative of our core towns, but at least it gives you a nice snapshot. This slide is called Academics on Track by Grade. And what on track means is students who have at least a C or better in all of their classes. I compared, when it says academic non, those are students who are not supported by a plan. And then academic IEP are students supported by a plan. For me, what this data is telling us is when, and it's a snapshot in time. So it's right at this, well, I did it probably about a month ago, but it's right at this time of year. I do think that we have to do a little bit deeper dive, because in 2023, for instance, 73% of our sixth graders were on track, meaning they had C's or better. But now in 2024, only 51% at this point in time. So these are things that we're going to be sharing, Mike and I, with the faculty in February, also talking about, that MCAS graduation requirement at our February faculty meeting. And Mike and I have been talking about next year being very much a data focused year. So that's just a little teaser to get staff more involved in really examining this kind of data and to start asking those why questions. Behavior on track.
Go back to that slide again.
I sure can.
So I just want to make sure. So the 73% sixth graders, in 2024, they're seventh graders. And so it's the same cohort. So that red bar in grade 7 is the sixth graders in 2023, right?
You are correct about that. And that's a good thing to point out, Bella. And it's a different way to look at it. So I guess that way you can track to see where they were in sixth grade, right? And then where they were in seventh grade.
Yeah. However,
I think what's equally important is to say, okay, last year at this point in time, 73% of them were on track. This year, only 51% of our sixth graders. So are they coming in with larger deficits and therefore sixth grade is struggling right now? Or what is it why is that 1 year our sixth graders, I know it's a little apples and oranges because you're comparing different children, but I'd like to see this over time. We only have this data for these couple of years because we've been using Panorama for only a couple of years. But I like to watch this data to truly try to analyze if our students are entering with fewer academic skills, as we continue to move on year to year, then we need to figure out ways to early on in these first couple of quarters really supplement their academics to get more of them on track right away. So, yes. Yeah, and these are these sixth graders. So let's see. Yes, so the 73% is our current 7th graders last year, when they were in 6th grade, 73% of them were on track.
But it just seems like that drop is happening every year. So look at the 9th graders, 83% in 2023, and now they're in 10th grade and it's 57%.
Correct. So why?
Why?
Right. And we can't ask why so until we start looking at this data. And then, I think in talking with Mike, our goal as an admin team is to, like I said, ask those why so questions and then just start trying things so that we can bring those numbers back up. And I want to be crystal clear about something. One thing that we are not going to try is changing our curriculum, right? Because AMSA is founded on our rigorous curriculum, and our mission says we get all students to perform at that level. So we're not looking to change the curriculum, make the curriculum different, implement all these levels. That stuff's not on the table. But we need to look at what other kinds of things can we do to ensure that all of our students are on track, throughout the whole year.
Lisa, do you mind if I add one quick thing on that?
Please.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please, anytime, jump in.
Just to highlight one thing you mentioned at the beginning when you were on this slide about a snapshot in time. That this information was pulled at a specific time, I believe, during Q2.
Correct.
One thing to keep in mind, some of these may look low. Part of the reason may be at that point in time in particular classes. Just for an example, there may have been only 3 homework assignments given, let's say, at that point in the quarter. And let's say a student did not pass in one of those 3 homeworks. Like that could have brought down their grade at that point in time when this information was taken, and that would result in a grade lower than a C. So it's a living, breathing process. We obviously would get more accurate, concrete data at the end of a quarter, if you will.
Correct. And the other thing is, to add to that, I will say that when I look at end of year data from 2023, these percentages are much better. Our teachers are really good at getting kids there, but I wonder if with this snapshot, it's becoming a little bit more difficult for the staff to get the teachers there, let's say, sooner. So these are just conversations that I think are worthy to have. There's absolutely, no negativity. But if we don't take deeper dives into the data that we have, then, we're selling ourselves short, I think. This staff is fantastic at getting it done. And I think that diving into the data, I think there are probably some geeks out there, probably like me, that would really enjoy doing this. There may be some people that might not like it, but I think it's just a good practice to really start.
Lisa, I have a quick question.
Sure.
How often does the staff review this data?
See, that's the question that I have as well, Dwayne. Right now, I do, maybe Mike, you can jump in and ask that, because I know you do it with your chairs, but I don't know how often we formally do it. Like we dedicate a PD time to it, to do it. So I don't know if you want to jump in, Mike.
Yeah. Like you said, Lisa, I think next year, like you said, it's a little teaser. I do think we need to spend more time actually looking at the Panorama website, which houses all of this data, and it's very user-friendly, extremely interactive. It's an awesome tool. It is new to AMSA. Right now, every teacher in the school has access to this site. they can currently view all of their current students on their caseload and see the entire picture for each student. They can see how the students are doing in other classes. They can create groups of students based on certain demographics and create groups and kind of monitor those students' progress in their class or other classes. So we're starting it. We didn't want to overwhelm staff and just throw the website at them and say, here you go, here's Panorama, learn how to use it. We sort of have done that at this point, but I think for next year, what Lisa and I are looking to do is to bring in more formal training on how to really utilize this product. Like I said, it's user friendly. You can kind of pick it up, but the basics, but there's a lot more to it. So I think we are going to look for training staff on how to gather the data and then review and analyze.
Yeah, and we also want to have the staff use the same type of data protocol. So using the same questions to get to root causes of things. And, we're the Math and Science Academy, right? So we need to be looking at numbers and we need to use a scientific process to do so. And we need to get excited about it because I think we're going to find good things in the numbers. And we're also going to find areas where, I might be sitting in a room with a colleague and their students right now might be at 83% on track. And they just taught, genetics or something. And I'm like, wow, they taught that unit better than I did. Why? And what can I learn from them? And once you get into it, it actually can get fun. And it's not canned PD where, someone comes in and they're lecturing you on, the latest, greatest technique. It's really a scientific process. It's about looking at it yourself and figuring out the different things you want to try to see if you can get your score higher. I mean, we use apps to track, what we eat, what we weigh, how many steps we take. This is really similar to that. We also, in the data dashboard for you all, have a snapshot of behavior on track. I just worked on the PSAT scores just this week when we came back, just to see. I don't like this chart, but I am working to try to get you some data on PSAT scores as well, because all of our students in 10th and 11th grade take it. So it's a good metric to kind of look at. So the bigger information is board members' homework. So please just take a look. I'm going to share out the data dashboard with you tomorrow when I get to school. You can look at these slides. You can look at the actual data dashboard that has the raw data and these charts. And if you could make suggestions of data that you'd like to see or questions you would like maybe answered or like to talk about during our strategic planning, and Maura will get into that a little bit more, please get that stuff to me by hopefully February 3rd. If you're a little later, I'm sure I can work with it so that I can make sure that we have a real strong dashboard for you to look at during our strategic planning meeting, because we're going to dive deeper into it. And this is the last slide. Just gives you some questions to think about. This is a data protocol. It's called data-driven dialogue. And these are the phases that you go through when you're looking at data. So, you take a look at it, you make some predictions, assumptions, you ask questions, and you ask yourself, what can I learn? And then you go to the next step and going visual, and then you try to observe, make some observations, and then you infer new questions. So you can use this presentation, and you can also take a look just at the dashboard that I'm going to share. I am going to stop sharing and take any questions, because that's kind of the end of my presentation tonight.
will we have access to the tool to play with the data ourselves, or just how do you want to deliver this?
Yeah, so we can't give you access to Panorama because of privacy rights for kids, because that has all kids' name and stuff like that. So that's why whatever you would like, I can prepare it for you and put it in the Excel dashboard that I'm using. And you can play with it by making a copy of that spreadsheet, do some playing with it. And then if you need more, I'll put more in there, and then you can do it that way and make a copy and play. So I definitely would really love you to get involved in that and take a look at it. And, you know, especially the education committee as well. So happy to put
Absolutely love it.
anything in there. Yeah, it's cool. All right.
Any other questions?
Do your homework.
Yes, that should be on every committee meeting agenda. All right, moving on. Chair business, strategic planning meeting dates. So thank you guys for filling out the multiple doodle polls to try and find a date. It's never easy to try and get everybody on a Saturday, let alone 2 Saturdays. So it looks like with Darren making one little concession to his schedule that we can do both March 1st and March 8th for the strategic planning process. And now that we have those, please put them in your calendars. Plan on the first half of each of those days. So probably like a 9 to 12, 9 to 1 timeframe to block. And then I will go ahead and work with our friends to secure our facilitator, and we'll work on an agenda with the committee chairs, et cetera. So.
And we promised the last half hour to 45 minutes we'll feed everybody so that we can
Yes.
have a little downtime too.
Yes, exactly. Any questions about that?
I do, just for planning. Should we assume it's either at the school, or I'm assuming it's somewhere relatively local to everybody?
Yeah, we'll be at the school most likely.
Not the White Mountain. Not this year.
All right. I'm going to skip over number 2 because Darren, or item B, because Darren is going to cover bylaws in the committee report for governance. I did want to talk about open meeting law, everybody's favorite topic. So some of our meeting minutes in the recent past have not met OML because they don't state the meeting location and don't include all of the exhibits presented in the meeting. So what I would love is for everyone who is sort of the acting secretaries in the committee, whoever's taking minutes, whoever's taking notes and turning those in, to set up a little bit of time to meet with Sarah, who is our board on track master, so that we are making sure that we can check all the boxes and that all of our meeting minutes meet OML. I'd like to get ahead of making sure we're doing this right, starting here and forward. It is tricky because you have to have certain information in certain places in the minutes. And so kind of some finagling of the tools in Board on Track to make sure that we've got everything we need. Attendance of whether we're remote or in person isn't quite enough. It's got to be where we're meeting, when we're meeting, how we're meeting. So not a huge deal, but something that we want to make sure we're doing the right way moving forward. And thank you, Sarah, for always being willing to help make sure we're using all of our tools to the utmost.
And Sarah, what would you say, 15, 20 minutes? Probably top.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. And then the last item in chair business is the Chamber of Commerce 100th year event, which is coming up on January 24th. It's a 5:30 to 10 p.m. It's at the Hilton Garden Inn. It's a Roaring 20s theme. But we have some availability for board members to join Lisa in going to this event. It promises to be a good one. So if you could let Lisa know tomorrow, we have to unfortunately RSVP for head counts. So it's Friday, January 24th, 5:30 p.m. And it's in Marlborough at the Hilton Garden Inn. All right. Any questions about any of those items? Excellent. Moving right along. Evan, it's back to you for the development report.
Hello. Extending on from what I mentioned earlier about the development updates, more the same. We're also looking to finalize some of the policies that we had reviewed in our November meeting, so a little bit of paperwork there, and also doing some outreach to organizations for overall involvement in AMSA, whether that be the potential for internship programs, partnerships, and support for programs that we have. So expanding on those, I've been on a couple calls, but that's kind of what we have there, at least over the last couple months. We didn't meet in December, didn't have a quorum. So our main focus moving forward is also a bit of committee recruitment, trying to find more individuals. So similar to last board meeting, as I had mentioned, if anybody knows folks in the community, whether they be tied to AMSA or businesses looking to help fundraising, have them reach out to me so we can get some folks on board and aware of what's going on. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thank you, Evan. Finance, Bella?
So in finance, we really have been focusing on like reviewing the capital investment plan, the draft in detail, and the line items and what they are. We also reviewed our finance goals, and our normal reports on reviewing like the building, the new building project, and the expenditures, and also how much is left in the reserve account, which has all been attached to this agenda. And I guess new to report, Dawn Capella is going to be joining our finance committee. Hopefully her first meeting will be next week. And I think Darren, right? Darren is also going to be part of our finance committee. So, so I think we have a nice rounded group of folks on the committee. And I think that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. And yes, I completely forgot to mention that Darren will be joining the finance committee during chair business. So thank you, Bella. And speaking of Darren, governance.
Good evening. While we're on the subject of adding members to committees, if we can also record that Stefan will be joining the governance committee. Stefan, thanks for your interest in agreeing to do that. We discussed in our last meeting, membership of the committee. We don't want to get in a situation where we aren't able to get a quorum to meet. So we're looking to expand the size of the committee a little bit. Again, thanks to Stefan for agreeing to serve. We spoke about the board recruiting process and have plans to do some deep dives into how we organize around that portion of our activity. And we talked about doing kind of a deep dive bylaws review, which, we do every year, kind of the standard review. But the group kind of agreed that kind of coming out of strategic planning, that it would be a good idea to review the bylaws in the context of, are we set up in a way that supports the board's and the organization's goals, and make sure that the bylaws, kind of maximally support what those goals are. So I think that's the bulk of our work this spring, and I'm looking forward to the strategic planning session as a basis for doing some of that work. I think that covers it.
Awesome. Darren, just in advance of that, would you recommend that everybody start to review the bylaws, or do you think it's probably a little too much for just everybody who's not kind of going through the discussions in committee to do it? How would you like us to have the greater board to participate in that?
Well, you're certainly welcome to peruse them now. I think if you did, that you would find any number of inconsistencies that might need to get clarified or cleaned up. So I've started a list of what those might be. So those are the easy ones, right? Hey, this section doesn't match, says something that's contradictory to this other section, or this is ambiguous. Those are sort of the easy edits, things to clean up. But yeah, if folks want to start to take a look and review with sort of an eye towards what is it that we're really trying to achieve? How can we best structure in order to support, getting there? That would be great. I would expect at some point we'll have a curated conversation with the board about that topic. So I wouldn't call it homework. If you want to get ahead of it, great. If you have some thoughts and want to send them along, I'd love to hear them. But this isn't your last bite at the apple. I think we're going to want to get the board together in a session that's really specifically dedicated to talking about some of those issues.
Okay, great. Any questions for Darren and governance? All right, Christine and education.
Sure. So our last meeting was actually quite a few weeks ago. We're meeting on Monday. The biggest thing going on right now is Planning Trustees Day, which is now actually really coming up. It's February 7th, which is a Friday, the week before break. And where things stand now is that Greg is going to send out a sort of a poll to teachers, essentially a sign up to see who's willing to have trustees come and visit their classes. The plan is to have the first 4 blocks, so the pre-lunch portion of the day, be the blocks that are available for people to visit. So what we're going to need to do once this meeting wraps up, probably tomorrow, I'll send out a sheet for people to sign up. So there's sort of 3 possibilities. Well, 4, you can not go, but you can, if you do go, you can either go to the classes portion, you could just go to the lunch portion, or you could do both. Our main concern is making sure we don't have a quorum at lunch. So that's probably the biggest reason to sign up, is that that doesn't happen, but also we don't want to have nobody going to this. So there's, if you sign up and you're, if it changes, please just make sure you update your sign up. Obviously things come up, but just if you could stay on top of that, that would be great, so that as we get closer to it, we know what to expect. Lynn is going to help make an actual schedule. So beforehand, we'll know here are the teachers who are doing what and where, so that trustees can choose sort of what class or half class to attend. If you split it in half, you have 8 different possibilities of things to sit in on. So that, I think that's going to be really interesting. And Greg, let me find you so I can look at you, even though you won't know the difference. I was wondering too, what you think about asking teachers to give, even if it's 1 sentence, like here's what we're going to be doing today, or not trying to sell anybody, but just so we kind of, we can make choices of where we go based on maybe what's interesting or what any other criteria that we, trustees might have to choose.
Yeah,
That could be helpful, not to create more work, but
I think 1 sentence isn't too much work, I hope.
okay. Okay, you ask them.
Yeah, I can definitely include that.
Thank you, that's great. So the next time we meet is after that, right? So next time we meet, we'll be talking about how it went. So we'll communicate a little bit over email about it. But definitely the sign up sheet will be important. And like I said, if your availability changes, just update the sign up sheet so that we can keep, keep tabs on things.
Excellent.
That is it.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Any questions for Christine?
Yeah, I do. Now that I read the open meeting law on my plane ride to Germany, I don't understand why quorum is a problem. The law states as long as no board business is discussed, we can meet. I mean, it's basically on us not to discuss board business.
And that's why.
Right?
I mean, that's exactly why. I mean, Sarah, I don't know if you want to say more about it, but I think
we did discuss that, and I think it would be unlikely that during lunch or during those times when the board would be meeting with guests, right? That's what we talked about during lunchtime, that things would not be mentioned that would be board business.
even if
I
we're
think it
not
would be very hard to
deliberating,
keep away
Yeah.
from that.
and it would be a shame to have to sort of stop a productive conversation, or have somebody have to decide whether we're getting into dangerous territory. So it seems safer to avoid it. And if there's so much interest that that's a concern, we had talked about possibly having lunch in 2 different rooms,
Right.
which
There
has
is
a
a-
different
there
sort
is
of
a-
feeling to it. But
The conference room, and then outside of the conference room,
Yep.
there is a table with chairs. So there could actually be 2 groups.
so whether we want to make that formal or not, so that's why having the sign up is helpful because then we can decide,
Correct.
do we need to solve for this? Because the last thing we want to do is discourage anyone from being there. So do we need to solve for it if it comes up?
So we may have an alternative. I'm not necessarily advocating for this, but we could go in the other direction and publish the meeting.
Post it.
You could cover yourself definitely by publishing it.
Yep.
But the other thing that I would say is, as long as you're not deliberating with each other about what the staff is sharing with you, then you're not deliberating, right, about a topic. So if a staff member comes to you and let's say they're talking just even about finances, where we're really concerned about finances and, you know, staff salaries and stuff like that, you know, you can say, hey, listen, we're gonna listen to tell us what you're thinking. We're not going to respond back,
Right.
Because that is an issue that the board, you know, would have to post to talk, you know, to respond back to. But it's such a nice day to have like a good showing that I don't think I would panic over this one, because again, and I think Maura, you can probably speak to like when you had, you know, the kind of staff coming and talking to you when you had your day, you know, as long as the board is not deliberating about these issues, you can certainly listen and you can say, we'll take it back to deliberate about it.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. I mean, I'm not panicking, and so I will defer to you and Sarah to say if you feel comfortable. I am merely a conduit.
I know, and thank you so much. It sounds really exciting.
And it is. I don't want to discourage. You know, the last thing we want to do is actually end up having to discourage anyone who wants to be there. So it's.
I think that we would. I would rejoice if we had the problem.
Exactly. That would be great.
Well put, Darren.
True. Very true. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll look forward to getting everybody scheduled who can go and then figuring all the details out. But that's exciting. Thank you for all the work on that, Christine.
Yeah, thank you to Sarah and Greg too.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. So reviewing action items. Previous meetings, we discussed the meeting dates poll, and we've got our dates for strategic planning. So we can put a big old check next to that one. New items from today, review the initial data from Lisa in committee and on our own so that we can have some really productive conversations about the data, what we want to look at, where we want to take it, what we want to learn from it, and be able to put into action thanks to it. Think about strategic planning. We are going to, in the next couple of weeks, hear back from DEES, and they're going to have, I'm sure, some information for us that we're going to want to take into our strategic planning process. That's why we pushed it back until after those results come back in February. So in addition to whatever we hear from that, let's just start thinking about the things that we're hearing, the things that we've been discussing that might want to make it onto our agenda. And then if you are so inclined, start looking at the bylaws. Am I missing anything that we've talked about so far today? No. Excellent. Okay, great. Then I will, hold on, I'm going to get the wording out so that I do it. I get all the right words in there. I will take a motion to adjourn into executive session. We are going into executive session to discuss strategies regarding negotiations with represented personnel, as doing so in open session would be detrimental to the process. As a reminder, we will not reconvene, and we will be joined by Dr. Mobley, Liana, and is Mike coming today? Yes, and Mike as well.
Do we have a link for that?
We do. It came from Liana.
Got it. Sorry, I was looking for the wrong person.
That's it.
Do you need me to resend?
Did you send it to AMSA addresses or to personals?
Good question.
AMSA, I think.
Could be personal because I think you took it from my list, Liana.
I did.
Okay. I'll find it.
All right, do I have a motion?
Motion,
Who did the motion?
Dwayne.
Dwayne.
And a second?
I'll second, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. And we will do the roll.
Yep. Okay. Bella,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Dwayne,
Yes.
Evan,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
and Maura.
Yes, and Stefan.
Everyone. Oh, and Stefan, yes. It's just not
Yes.
it's not in the program yet because I didn't do it. I apologize.
No
Anyway,
problem.
it will be there. It will be there in 5 minutes after the meeting. Okay.
All right, great. We will see everybody over on the other link.
Have a good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you,
Good
Greg.
night.
Have a good night.
Bye, Maura. Thank you.